So, all right, as soon as the council member takes his seat, we'll get started. I'd like to welcome everyone to a town board workshop regarding the proposed solar law for the town of Monroe. We have a full contingent of board members. We also have town attorney Carla Bittner with us, and we have the deputy town clerk for the recording for us tonight. What I'd like to do is, take, set an hour of time to work on this tonight. Hopefully we can move forward through the process to keep pushing, this process along. Board members should have received, I don't know if you have a hard copy of some correspondence from the town attorney that was produced later this afternoon. I do have, copies for the board. Yes. Did everybody get a copy? Either I know you got electronic, but I don't know if that hard.
Is that the color one here, or?
Yeah, well, it's the basically all the correspondence that has taken place between town attorney and board members. It's a attorney-client privileged document. I should have the minutes from the last board meeting.
We have a copy here, I think.
Yeah, that way. Yeah, that you got.
It's got it with its intent draft down here.
Yeah, the only thing you may not have, because I just received a little while ago, is one more page, which is a overview of what we had discussed, where we would like to have or permit the various types of solar, and I'll run through that. Like the tier 1 ground mounted, we left off with it being considered for R3, R4, R5, C1, CC1, C2, C3, M1, M2. Then the tier 1 roof mounted would be permitted in all zoning districts. And then finally, tier 2 large scale ground mounted, we were considering R5, M1, and M2. Where we left off at the last meeting, I think we were all in agreement that we would not like to permit any size solar in the RP and UR zoned areas. I do have a copy of the zoning for the town of Monroe behind me for reference if anybody has any questions on where those particular zones are. Carla, would you like to continue through, the agenda that we had done before, or would you like to flesh out where you think you'd like us to be at the end of tonight's meeting?
I'd like to do the latter.
Okay, that would be great.
The main issues that you folks were dealing with was the tier 1, tier 2, ground mounted, or roof mounted and large scale. You decided that last time. You reimagined the definition. You switched it from small scale and large scale to the tiers that are in the model code. So you have that. I changed that in there. The only thing in that you did not discuss was in the definition, there is a section that talks about, and if you have it in front of you, this will be easier. The definition of solar energy system, and it's the tier 2. There was a lot of talk last time about what that meant, whether it's going to be, how you were going to define it, whether it was going to be a percentage of the property or if it was going to be a megawatt, how you were going to say what it was. So if you look at B under solar energy system, you'll see there are blanks there. That's something that you have not decided yet. So
Sorry,
I think I'm sorry, I'm in the definition. That's in the one attachment that you got today.
Under B, tier.
The one you got today. Yeah. Yes. If you look under solar energy system, it's on the 3rd page.
Yeah, I'm back.
You good?
I'm back.
Okay. You look down, this is the definition you decided to include at the last meeting. The only thing you did not decide was if you look at B, it says tier 2 solar energy systems. Do you see that?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Include ground mounted solar energy systems with a total blank surface area of all solar panels in the lot up to so much square feet and that generate up to so much electricity. You did not put numbers in there. You went back and forth as to whether you were going to do it either just the surface area or the surface area plus an output or surface or just the output. And that was not decided the last time. Under the model law, it states tier 2, it has a system capacity up to 25 kilowatts, and that generate no more than 110% of the electricity consumed on the site over the previous 12 months. Or there's another one, which is the one you adopted, which is total surface area on a lot up to 4,000 square feet, and that generate up to 110% of the electricity. That's that 4,110% you didn't agree on. You didn't tell me what you wanted to do. So that's one thing I'd like to get to tonight. And just to kind of move, the next thing I think board should determine is where you want the solar. The supervisor said, this is what it is in the proposed draft, this is where we want it. There was some back and forth last time, and a review of the minutes showed that there was no consensus at the end. I think those are your two big issues. Once you have those two issues done, then I would, if we have time, if you could look, we can look at the actual specifications that you have in there for the tiered systems, the height requirements, the fencing, things of that. Those really are the main, all that's remaining in the solar law that has not been determined. There was some folks wanted one, some folks wanted another, so that's something that need to be discussed. If you can get through all that tonight, good job.
All right, well, we will do our best. So, following up on the town attorney's comments, at least as it relates to large scale, you know, I've thought about this a lot, and I think that probably the fairest way to basically define what shall be acceptable and what shall not is probably not percentage. You know, maybe we should focus on you know, the total generation capacity, and you know, maybe tied in with surface area of glass, because you know, with different landowners having different percentages, ability to have larger facilities with larger holdings with the same amount of percentages, I think it levels the playing field across our landowners if we're looking at, you know, a flat number for generation. And obviously we'd have provisions in there that relate to setbacks and things like that, views from the road. That might be the more fair way of doing it, I guess. So the question would be, what number should we be looking at for that? And, you know, I'm open to any suggestions at this point.
So generating capacity, as opposed to percentage of land.
Yeah,
Essentially. Okay. Well, I mean, that's a lot different than I think that I've been thinking about it. Is this a discussion we're gonna have right now, or is it, well, or do we want to discuss the
No, I think you should have that
tier
right
2
now.
first? No.
No, that's what you're talking about. You're talking about tier 2.
I thought you were talking about large scale, but isn't tier 2,
Tier 2 is large scale.
Oh, I thought,
Tier 1 is roof mounted and small scale.
I guess I was looking at, okay, sorry.
Well, you want to, I don't care where we start, but.
Oh, well, I don't know, I mean, so I have in my notes that I marked up the NYSERDA law here a little bit, and I ran, so sorry for the confusion on that piece there, but just doing a lot of the numbers, you know, 4,000 square feet. I guess, you know, that's, you can configure a lot of different plots to get 4,000 square feet, right? 50 feet by 80 feet, is that 4,000 square feet? 200 feet by 20 feet, that's 4,000 square feet. 30 feet by 130 feet, I don't know if I'm looking at that wrong, but all those things are 4,000 square feet. I mean, then the notes I wrote here is I wrote 25 kW and 110, which is what they used in their example up top. I noticed those numbers seem to be something that it looks like they could just delete and put something else in very quickly, very easily. I don't know how big a system like that actually is. Like, I don't know what 25 kW is.
Well, I can tell you if it's 25, it's getting kicked up to an Article 10 site.
That's what megawatts.
So, I'm sorry, yeah, 1025 kW.
You're right.
Is a lot smaller. I mean, if you're at 4,000 square foot, a 50 foot by 80 foot, I'm thinking that, this is just me thinking out loud, this is not me pushing anything out from my own personal belief here. I'm thinking a 4,000 square foot array will be able to produce 25 kW. I'm thinking if that's nicer to give us those numbers. So I guess I'm just open to hearing others' thoughts on how it'd be better to go with generating size as opposed to square footage on the ground. And then I don't know. I don't know if you have any.
Me either, as far as size, and I wonder when solar panels become more efficient, if the size of them could actually shrink. I'm wondering what size we actually have out here on this property. And, you know, what's that square footage on that unit?
Oh, I couldn't tell you what the square footage is on that, but we can find out.
And or what the system might actually be able to produce. You know, it's kind of like, to throw a number in here as far as the size that we would be limited to or limiting people to. You know, I think NYSERDA has thrown out there 110% of that previous 12 months for usage. So the idea was that you can't produce, you know, more than this, and this is what you're allowed. I'm wondering why we couldn't go along with that percentage as far as this system of standing unit. But I'm also wondering, and I just was looking over your email this afternoon about, it looks like we have tier 1 roof mounted, tier 1 ground mounted, and then tier 2, which encompasses any other ground mounted.
No, I think we're getting confused here.
Well, that's what I want to know.
I think we have suggested that we have tier 1, which is encompassing of roof mounted solar and ground tilting integrated solar. Tier 2 is going to be for ground mounted solar, but those are generally of the smaller size. I mean, the example that Carla gave, you know, up to 25 kilowatts, that's a much smaller a piece of solar plot. And then the third is the much larger ones, anything above whatever those levels we established. That's what we were talking about. So this isn't, this is what we're talking about right now, is that one that might end up in somebody's backyard, that may have been a side yard of somebody's farm or rural property. This is not the large scale, and correct me if I'm
No, you're right.
This is not the large scale that we're talking about, a 5 megawatt that somebody wants to put out on, will be probably 30 or 40 acres. So
What
we're
would be
talking
a
about.
farm? That's what they call it, you know,
Yeah,
the solar
yeah.
farm.
So we're talking about that one in the middle right now.
Okay, so with that said, thinking about that, why wouldn't we keep it to whatever the percentage could be
Well, we can.
for,
I was more directed my comments toward the large scale.
okay, and I'm thinking that more for like that house or business that wants to put a system on to help support the electricity that they're using. To leave it at that 110% that I sort of uses
Well,
versus putting in a size of, you're limited to 44,000 square feet.
Well, you can do both. You can do a percentage not to exceed the square footage.
the one thing I'd like to point out, and certainly may have a different opinion than others, but just because we say they can put up to 4,000, but not exceed more than 110%, doesn't mean that anybody can do that, because we have other language in the law that I actually think is more important, and that's about visibility, and it's about setbacks. And so the rest of the law needs to be considered if we're fearful of 4,000. If you have a landowner that wants to put 4,000 square foot at the maximum we would allow under this category, but that they want to do it on a 100-acre farm, it becomes a problem if you don't take the whole law into consideration. That's my opinion. So on the topic of just this group in the middle, this tier 2 solar, I like using one of the two suggested model laws. Last meeting, last workshop, we had chosen the tier 2. We chose the second option, the one that Carla has in this document here.
But you had done it specifically of all solar panels. It was it wasn't, if you look at the model law is up to square feet. Total surface area of all solar panels on the lot up to so much square feet. And that's how we have a total surface area up to so much square feet. So I need to know the square feet you want. If you want to do 4,000 square feet, we do 4,000 square feet. And then the 110%. You can always change it, but you'd have to change the law. But I mean, for right now, I mean, if you want to put that in there to move on to the next one, just so there's something in there, and you remember that this is going to go through the public too. So there may be other people that have different comments on percentages, people that may be a lot smarter than I am. So just to throw that out there.
I guess my thoughts are to jump in, but if that 4,000 number is in the NYSERDA law, I know a lot of towns have probably used that, the NYSERDA law. I guess 4,000 is in there for a reason. It's not probably considered not too big, but it's also something where people would go forward with a project of that size because there is some benefit, and it can get them up to 110% of the electricity consumed on the site over the last 12 months.
So I'd be okay if you're saying 4,000 at 100, up to 110%. Is that what you're suggesting?
I think so. I mean, I'm
okay with that to keep
going with that.
I'm okay with it, especially with my overall added law. The other parts of the law will protect us as far as screening and setbacks and stuff like that. But give yourself nothing.
I mean, that's my perspective. I certainly challenge any other board member if I'm looking at it wrong, because I want to make sure I'm looking at it from all perspectives. So to your concern, John, if you have some reason why that 4,000 at 110%, I mean, please share it.
No, other than I'm not so sure that, like, I'm thinking about a business, if I want to put in something that can support just the business, that they might need more than 4,000 square feet. But I also, think about, well, they might be able to put on a roof, which we're not really limiting. So with that in mind, I'm okay with it. And if they need to change it, I'm sure there's avenues that they can ask for relief on that. So it's probably their number.
So what I'm hearing is for now, to keep us moving, we'll pencil in 4,000 solar panels on a lot of up to 4,000 square feet. Am I reading that right? Or are you looking for total surface area of solar panels?
Okay. That's what I have.
All right, so total 4,000 square feet of the total surface area of glass on a lot of up to what size? Do we want to put anything in there or leave that out?
I personally don't think that should be a variable, because we're gonna achieve all of our goals with the law in its totality.
Okay.
That doesn't mean that that's just one person.
All right, so we will up to with a total surface
I
area.
have it, a total surface area of all solar panels on the lot of up to 4,000 square feet, and that generate up to 110% of the electricity consumed.
Okay, everybody okay and for now? All right, I mean, this, just to keep us moving. And just a council member, Hogan, asked for like an example so that we can visualize what we're talking about on large scale. So if you were to take the closed landfill and put a solar array out there that covered most of it, you're looking about a 6 megawatt facility on about 40 acres. Yeah. So just for a point of reference, that's what kind of acreage we're talking about for that.
And in this case, in this section, we're talking kilowatts.
Yeah, exactly, yeah. Okay, so are we good on A, B, and C for now?
Oh, wait, we don't see.
Oh, sorry, A and B.
Well, C is nothing. C is just tier 3 solar energy systems that are not included in tier 1 and tier 2.
It's everything else.
Everything else, everything above 4,000 square feet is everything else.
Okay. All right, so then, the next point, for discussion,
The zone, where do you want it?
and, I know I read it off at the beginning of the meeting, based on the last conversation we had as a group. I can read it again if everybody wants to, write it down.
I have one extra copy.
I can rattle, so tier 1 ground mounted, I can go right to the category if you want. You got it, you got it.
Emailed out today.
You got it.
Yeah, I can pull up here, okay.
So essentially, so tier 1 ground mounted, as we've discussed at this point in time, would be permitted in the R3, R4, R5, and for everybody's, this is R3 the purple, this is R5 all the green, and R4. R4 is the pink area over here in this portion of the town. And would also include C1, which is commercial 1, which is blue, dark blue. And this is the commercial area on Route 9. I think at the last meeting, we were in agreement that we did not want to allow that in the C1. Is that what we're talking about?
I think that is what we have it defined differently. I'll give you a perspective. Right now, we're just talking about roof mounted and building integrated. Correct?
So we're-
Roof mounted is everywhere. Roof mounted and building integrated.
But
is
that's,
everywhere.
we're talking about tier 1 right now.
Tier 1.
Right, so this is why I was confused by your email, when you're listing out tier 1 ground mounted, tier 1 roof mounted.
Right, that was a typo.
Okay, this is why I'm a little confused by that. So, I was thinking tier 1 is essentially roof mounted,
Building.
building integrated, so,
Right.
it could be the side of the building, it could be the top of the building.
Again, just the only overlying variable I would remind everybody of, later in the law, we define the criteria around visibility and height and stuff of that. So, but yes.
Okay, and then, so then tier 2 is considered the ground mounted systems,
Right, and then when it says tier 2, large scale, that's tier 3.
that's tier 3.
Right,
Okay, that's,
that's on me.
all right.
I own it.
That's fine, but I just wanted to be clear so that we were talking about the same thing, and I'm looking at your email thinking. It's not the way I thought it was.
So the most recent email, so I
It
have.
should say tier 2,
for
where it
where?
says for ground mount, which is tier 1 ground
Oh,
mount, that
okay.
should say tier 2.
Okay, all right. Tier 2 is roof mounted and, no,
Tier 2 ground mounted from R3 to M2. Because you folks had, you had it as small scale, large scale. and-
Yep. all right, so,
Then it's tier 1 roof mounted, that's everywhere.
yep,
And then that should say tier 3, where it says tier 2. That's
got
R5
it,
and
all right,
everything.
okay, that's where I was confused. Everybody back?
That's where I was confused.
So the areas that I just indicated were for all ground mounted structures, which I just read off through R3 through M2, and which I pointed out on the map. So they would be permissible in dark blue, which is a C1. Correct.
Correct.
Everybody okay with that?
Let's restate. You're talking about roof mounted and building integrated?
No.
Ground,
We, so,
Roof mounted and building integrated are everywhere.
gotcha. Now we're talking.
Ground mounted
Which we just defined,
This is tier two.
is R3 through M2.
R3 through M2.
What large scale ground mounted, which is how it's defined right now in your code, is tier 3. That's R5, M1, M2.
Okay, so sticking with tier 2.
R3 through M.
2. If you're looking at the email, it's the first list.
So basically what we're eliminating there is the R1, R2 districts, as well as,
Right, R1 and R2,
What's left on the desk?
except for mountain.
That's exactly what I got on my desk.
And that's why I want to talk about it, because you all have different ideas, so we need to know where we're putting these.
So what are we on right now? Tier 2?
Yes,
tier 2 ground mounted,
R3 through M2. That excludes just then.
4 districts. R1, R2, UR, and RP.
I'm fine with that myself.
Okay. Are you here or are you there?
Oh, I'm here, don't you? Yeah, you ready for an answer from you?
I don't know. I'm,
So, well, everybody, I'm sorry.
that was part of the reason for, the maximum size. I think it's probably would be okay with that. Those districts.
that's up to you.
Just voicing it.
Can we just review for me to make sure I didn't miss something? What, R1 and R2 encompass what area?
R1 is right here. This is, that's the village residential. No, village actually is where it crosses over into the white. So R1 is,
So we don't impact the village. Okay.
so this is R1 right here. Orange. It's right here. And then of course, R2 is the yellowish. What was that? This area is here.
Oh,
So, well, no, C3 is the purple, C1 is blue. I mean, I raised the question about C3 being essentially right in the middle of R1. These are huge lots, so that was my,
So C through 3 is included in the tier 2.
But I know last time I thought we discussed,
You want to pull that out?
well, I thought maybe we didn't agree on it. We had talked about the C3 and then ultimately the C1 as the fact that that's gonna be a commercial corridor at some point, hopefully very soon. And I know part of the discussion was removing it from C1 and C3. C3 considering it's a sliver in the middle of a densely, high density residential.
Right, so basically it's just past Merritt Road as you're headed north. So Merritt Road all the way up to the village line, on both sides of the road is C3. And then right up here is a little bit of C2 in there. So the question is, I think for us,
That C2 is crazy right there, because there's a house there, there's a diner that's there. And
So the question is, do you want them to be removed from the tier 2 classification or leave them in? Now, remember that the definition for ground mounted is a solar system that is anchored to the ground, attached to a pole or other mounting system, detached from any other structure for the primary purpose of producing electricity on site.
but that's the one we're just talking about, up to 4,000 square feet.
Well, if it meets those criteria, so I'm a little concerned now that I better understand R1 and R2, so if the law, so if we leave R1 out and you have a home in R1 and you want to put a small solar panel in your backyard to supplement your electricity, and you can shield it to meet all the other criteria that our law requires, you wouldn't be able to do it.
Correct. But you can do roof mounted. So the option is there. I don't, and this is where I would say, I don't know how you could meet all of the shading requirements in neighborhoods that close. You can't do it. I mean,
Well, that's because
you
the
can
law.
barely put a shed in the neighborhood up there because it's close to the lot lines.
But based on this, could they put a solar panel on a shed?
Because it's roof mounted.
Because it's roof mounted,
So we haven't determined what you're mounting, which roof you're mounting it on.
essentially.
So I think we should define that at some point.
I don't have a problem with putting a solar panel check roof, but, you know, it's when you think about it, it's kind of like,
Wouldn't they all meet they would meet all the other requirements though too, right? And then would you even, I couldn't even imagine about an engineer here, the size of a solar panel you put on a shed to get, are we sticking to that 18-inch below gap and all that stuff?
I have to look and see what you put in there. I wanna, that was just an aesthetic issue. I think that's one of the things we were gonna discuss. To your point though, Kyle, the definition's already in there as what a roof mounted solar system is.
Okay.
It's an existing roof of any legally permitted principal or accessory building. So that would be a shed. You could do a house or a shed.
So basically, this would prohibit any ground mounted, but you could put it on any roof. Which, you know, if the roof is already there, I mean, it's from an aesthetic standpoint, it's not gonna.
Which would be better to have it on one structure than having one structure and another one next to it. So, yeah, that makes sense. I guess I can see that.
So you're okay with leaving R1 and R2 out?
Well, R1 and R2 are somewhat different. I mean,
Yeah.
R1 I certainly agree with. I mean, R2, some of those properties are much larger in size, although there's some.
So R2 is the goal. So here's all, it's like the portion of that. So this is off of a commercial corridor. This is all R2 down through here. This is 197. Actually comes down here a little bit to the southern side of 197. It's also across Route 9, following the river, all the way around underneath the Northway, over to this whole area here.
Yeah, I'm struggling, and again, I'll just be more, I'm struggling with limiting it out of R2.
Okay.
Again, if they can meet the other criteria established in the law, then we are protecting the interest of the other residents. You know, when it comes to line of sight and setbacks and those things, I mean, we're talking about
Strawberry.
So that's, well, yeah, that's everybody, that's here, here. Yeah, just other side of, yeah, I mean, I think this is where we can talk about it now and the public come in and give us their opinions on it. I think that's the most, I mean, we represent them, right? We represent the public, so if we, because I can't, I mean, I'm a fan of no ground mounted in R1 and R2 for sure, but, we need to hear from people who live in the areas too.
well, so I'm thinking about the R2 now. Are we talking this goes down to like Snowberry?
Strawberry is, yes, Strawberry Lane.
So between 197 and Snowberry, there is a ground mounted system out there already that, you know, I've seen that it's set out behind the house. It doesn't really seem to have any major impact. I don't know why we wouldn't be able to allow it for others.
Well, you could allow it and assign a minimum acreage with it. You know, if you got more than 2 acres or something, I don't know. I mean, you know, I think to Kyle's point, correct me if I'm wrong, is on, you know, where you don't have room for it, or you have neighbors that are backed up, even though they have lots of acres, that, you know, he's concerned that you could have an array right on the property line, right next to the house next door.
Well, I understand that, but isn't that?
You won't be able to do that.
Why not, the other rest of the law won't allow that to happen, to be right the whole law, right?
Okay.
I mean, I live in that particular area, I don't have any desire to put solar for the record, but I would never meet the criteria that we have in the draft, because I don't have enough shielding on my property. I sit with neighbors on all four sides, and I'd never meet the criteria, so I'd have to go roof mount if I wanted to personally, using it as an example.
Well, I mean, that,
And I wouldn't want my neighbors on the other three sides not to single them out to be able to do it.
right, and that's the law, right, and that's what we want for faith, and that's what we want to trust. And it does, the law's there, and then we'll go in front of zoning and planning, right, zoning if someone wants something different.
Zoning for a variance, this is a planning law, they'd have to go to the planning board for site plan review.
And we have to have faith that our boards are aware of how we wrote the law.
Well,
Because
actually,
I have seen, we had some things that can happen in town that people get approved for that I just don't understand.
well, to your point, Kyle, if you remember at the last meeting, I recommended that after this board is comfortable, that you allow the planning and zoning boards to review the law at their next meeting.
Sure.
And then come back to you with their comments, and then it goes out to the public, because you're absolutely right. Once you draft a law, it's out of your hands.
Right.
They're the boards that have to read it, and they're the boards that have to apply it.
And I think we gotta have it. I've said it before, I say it every time, I'm more of a conservative approach to some of these things, and then have people ask for more from those boards. That's not always a popular view, but I feel like that is something that protects the town first and foremost, and then the other boards can weigh in on it, rather than wide open. But that's too open-ended when I say that, so let's get back to these things here.
So are we keeping R2 out, or are we putting R2 in?
I don't have a problem eliminating R1 or R2. I think there's plenty of properties in there that probably fit into our criteria. So I'd like to open it up to-
I mean, let's open it up to R2 and,
But the public.
let the public weigh in on it.
My position, based on public feedback, certainly could change, that's the value of the process.
But the biggest question, right, does it change the character of a neighborhood? And that's what the neighbors in those areas are gonna have to ask themselves. Do they want it in their backyard? Because I can just see someone go, well, I can't shield it. Well,
You can't.
they want it, so it should be, I know that, but I want to be proven wrong on this, and I would love it. Prove me wrong. I mean, it's,
Back to Ellen's point, though, if we have our law set up with setbacks and the screenings and everything else, that should eliminate any problems as far as, like you say, the neighbors, I don't want to look at these.
theoretically, you're correct.
But if we write the law right, and you get the screening properly done, and the setbacks properly done, I don't think we'll have to.
No, you're 100% correct. I'm not saying you're not. I sat on the zoning board for 5 years, and I watched the law get holes punched in it like crazy because someone showed up with an attorney that, does this for a living. So, and people are afraid to say no, to someone like that. So, but I'm okay with letting the public weigh in. What's that?
Okay.
Thought I spoke out, but.
Okay.
I might have been on the record,
Okay.
but basically R2 is all.
And just to address some of the concerns that Councilmember Noonan had, I think when we get to the point where we're ready to provide this to the public for public hearing, I think, Councilor, it'd be very important that on this draft law, probably more than any other, to assist our boards that we have extensive legislative intent included in that.
Without a doubt.
Okay, that'd be great. So there's not as much ambiguity in what the board meant when we adopted the law.
What did you just say?
Legislative
I
intent,
got you.
it's a, you got it, okay.
It's the reason you're doing it.
And you can help put it in plain. Just so I'm clear, R1, RP, and UR are out.
Yes,
That's how I'm putting it in right now.
everybody go.
Yes.
And moving on to tier 1, which is roof mounted, we currently have proposed that roof mounted be available in all zoning districts.
Yeah.
As long as everybody's
So
okay.
can I ask one question on that? Roof mounted? Yes, I can. Building integrated, could that also mean siding?
Yeah, I think that's what building integrated
That's what
is.
it
I think, but when you go into the definition more clearly in the law, there's also those same criteria. It's designed not to be seen.
Okay,
So it's not like you're gonna hang on the side of your building. We need to have other language that defines, go ahead.
It's defined in there, and it says a building integrated system may occur within transparent skylight systems, within roofing systems, replacing traditional roofing materials, a combination of photovoltaic building components integrated into any building skylight system and roofing materials. As of right now, it's still on the roof and the skylights. That's how it's defined, and that's the definition from, I believe, the NYSERDA. But we can make that whatever we want it to be.
well, I know that they're trying to develop, but they haven't already got solid siding that is, you know, the solar energy.
And you wouldn't even know that's what it is, essentially, that's the whole idea.
Yeah.
It's
but-
currently not in the NYSERDA definition or your definition siding, it's only skylight systems, roofing materials, shading over windows.
Do we need to be addressing it at this point?
I don't know.
Not knowing that it's actually available yet. Okay.
My opinion is no. I think that definition covers it.
Okay.
But, okay.
What's that?
He's only one guy.
Yeah, no, I get it, but I know, yeah. I'm just trying to think ahead for, hope it's not too long in the future, that it will be available.
Yeah.
Well, laws are made to be changed.
I guess to that point, and just to add a little content on my opinion, I'm not very comfortable designing a law for something that isn't been invented fully yet. That was really my point.
All right, so we have consensus on tier 1 roof mount, and it can be in all zoning districts. All right, so now we'll move on to tier 3, which is our large scale ground mounted arrays. Currently, we discussed allowing them in R5, M1, and the M2 zone districts. Any thoughts on that?
From a zoning perspective, I have no requested changes.
Okay. One of the things I think that we need to consider as a board, how do you handle property owners that are located in the, for instance, the R2 or R3 that have sizable land holdings? Do we allow them in those areas if they meet stringent requirements? Do we leave them out altogether? I know there's a lot of interest
In the R3.
in the R3 right now that, you know, it's a landowner with several hundred acres, I think. I'm sorry, go ahead.
I think there's a lot fewer of those than the other perspectives, so I think that the mechanisms that are available, you know, looking for some variance or a PUD would be how you address those.
So, so the R5 is essentially the entire ag district. R3 is over here in purple. Right here, over here, moving over south of the area, the interstate, an interchange, exit 17N. And it's contiguous to the light industrial areas we have over here. We do know that on a previous proposal that they're looking to get solar down in this area. Right now, there's a large landowner that's interested in doing a solar farm in this area over here. And R4 is the pink area, which is down along the river, and also over here. One of the things, you know, I would like to take into consideration as we move forward with putting together recreational opportunities down along the river. You know, do we want solar in that area? Do we want to prohibit it in that area? That's something that we should take into consideration too, as part of the conversation.
This particular part of R4 or all of R4? Like, could you make that, it's no longer R4, but it's another, you change the.
It's the whole district.
Right, well, so you can't, I learned last time, maybe we can't pick and choose parts of a district, it's in the whole district or it's not the district. So, but like you said, I know we're discussing all the recreational, work that's gonna happen down in R4 for the, conservation of nature. And, I get that the solar production of energy is using nature in a green way, but when you wanna go canoeing, kayaking, or hiking, you wanna walk around or through solar panels. So, but you can't not include it up there and then put it down here. But these guys down here have enough property and land to probably meet many of the requirements out of view, right? So do you change the district?
So one of the things that the board should also remember, that this is not the be all end all, and that if we ban or prohibit these large scale solar arrays in a particular area, there's still a mechanism that allows a landowner to come before, not the planning board, but the town board through the plan unit development process. And that actually gives us, the town board, incredible control as part of the approval process if we want to move forward to dictate what we want to see from the applicant if we're going to move forward. In other words, we can require that there be conservation easements. We can require, you know, that they assist us in something recreational related at our park. So by banning a particular zone, that doesn't mean that you couldn't get them in there in extenuating circumstances. So, you know, that's something you should keep in mind when you're considering, you know, what areas you want to include or not include.
I just want to get one clarifying point, to make sure that my position is still as I assumed it was going to be. Well, we cannot, in the Simsbury Council,
I'm just saying,
we can't have let's take R3. We can't have something that said in R3, when we're talking about tier 1, you know, R5, M1, M2, and R3 property owners with greater than 10. I mean, 10 acres, using a number.
Right.
We want to be the same. You can't deviate within.
no, but the way you would do that is you would put the whole district in and craft it such that with the requirements to put the solar arrays in, your space requirements, your height requirements, your setback requirements, that would ultimately rule out any of the other parts. So I'm taking yours and flipping it on its head.
Yeah. So thank you. So the reason I'm concerned about R3 not being in was because unlike R5, there's a lot larger number of smaller properties that are all close to one another. But there are in R3 some properties, one we just mentioned, that certainly I've been very open to talking about the right projects on that property. So the only other, leave it out and let them come through the other vehicles are in place, if they choose to. or go with that latter suggestion, put R3 in, and most of the small ones, I'd rather let them come through the other.
I think that's where I am on that, because I think that there are a lot of large acreage holdings in the R3. And I would prefer that the board have the opportunity to really scrutinize the project that comes before it. And, you know, I think it's in the best interest of the town to have the ability to have some caveats worked into a possible approval, which benefits the town globally. And if we allow it in the area, we don't have the ability to ask for certain caveats to be met. That's my feeling.
I don't know, I just don't, I agree more with Carlos, that we put them in, and then we build our law around to make sure that, you know, we get what we want. But you said there's plenty of places in our area.
Well, I said there are some large.
There's some large parcels in there that would probably be developed for solar. And put them in, put our laws in place, and put our criteria in place. And, you know, the smaller properties probably wouldn't even be interested because they don't have enough property to go and stay within the guidelines. But I think it'd be more fair to put them in the same as put everybody else and let them live by the criteria. Because there are going to be some, you know, there's some people up there looking at solar. So I just don't think it's fair just to say no and then later around we're going to pick and choose landowners which ones that we think that they should have. I don't understand. I don't agree.
Well, we have that ability on all kinds.
We have that ability. I understand we have the ability, but I'm thinking about fairness and property. So I'm looking at, you know, let the property owners go, put their project up. If they fit the criteria, let them do it. I mean, we're doing that in R5, we're doing that in other districts. Why would we do it in R3? That's my thoughts. Sure.
It's all around bias and this question about. It seems like we're trying to figure out where all these particular tiers are fitting, and then we're listing the districts in which they could be. Would it be better to look at each district and determine what can go in each one, as opposed to, I feel like it's just the opposite way of, like, each district has a different set of rules, as opposed to what we can fit in, take the whole lot, does it fit in the district, or does the district have its own set of criteria? Am I not making any sense when I say that?
As a planning board, I think they've heard you. No, I don't know if that would accomplish anything
Okay.
more than you're accomplishing right now.
Okay, I'm just
Because you're
curious.
still looking, so what, for example, let's play yours out for a second. R4, or R3, that's what we were talking about,
Each one
R3.
will be R1.
So let's say the R3 district, you look at the district and say, what can we fit in the district? You're doing it backwards. You're creating the criteria to fit into the district. So you're gonna say, this is what it would mean to have a large scale solar in just the R3. But then the person next door in R4 has a totally different set of criteria.
Well, we do that now with what's allowed in those areas, in terms of like what is allowed in R1, R2, R3, R4, outside of solar, obviously, but we have the districts for a reason, because they all have different requirements because of density, most, I would think. So I just kind of thought I had listening to trying to figure out what can we get in what one of these, you know, what zones these tiers fit in. It's like we're trying to treat all the zones as equal, and then the tiers is different because they are. But my thought was maybe do it backwards. I don't know. I mean, every zone has a set of requirements now of what you can do. or when I say zoning, you know what I mean, R1, 2, 3, okay, district. So that was just a thought on that. I mean, it's gonna be a lot of the same language, I think, that goes in, but it would be more defined as to what can happen in each.
I mean, you can, there's nothing saying you can't do that, that's a different tact. I mean,
Sure.
I'm happy to write whatever the board wants. It's legally defendable.
Right, okay, it's just a thought on that, only because it's if we're trying to treat them all as equal, but then they're clearly not. The districts are equal.
Because we're gonna have the same criteria for everybody. I think, my idea of what we're trying to do here is trying to see where these large arrays would fit, where they would fit into the landscape, where they would fit logically for the solar companies. And then we'll set up criteria. Yes, you can put them there, but you gotta do this, that, and the other thing. But I think the criteria thing in the playing field should be level for everybody who has an opportunity to put something in, that it would fit. I think our job here now, my feeling is to set what we're doing right now, set what districts you think these large areas might fit in. That's what we're looking at right now. And then we're gonna go and talk about criteria and stuff like that.
Right.
So I believe that, you know, R3, that's a district where some of these things might fit. So I think they should be considered just as much as R5. Just as much as M1, M2, because they all would fit in those areas. Some of these areas they wouldn't fit anymore. That's why we're keeping them out of there. But I think what we have to do tonight is sit down and say, where do these things fit? They fit in R5, M1, M2, they also fit in R3. And then set our criteria as to what we expect if they do put these things in. How many acres or whatever we do, maybe possibly. But I think that's what we have to do right now, is get to the point of where would these things fit? Where might someone be interested in putting these things in, and if they would fit those areas? And I think.
And that's fine, if that's the board consensus, I'm okay with that. I'm just looking at it, it seems like we're having a difficult time even just figuring that out. So it was like, I was looking at it from a perspective of, do we, as opposed to having the tier at the top and what they fit in, do we have the zone at the top? But it's the same, it's gonna be the same at the end, I guess, so. Anyway, so what's next?
So we've hammered out tier 2, we've hammered out tier 1, we're almost through tier 3. We've just utilized an hour of time, so I guess at this point, I would just add, if we can wrap up tier 3, my position is, at this point in time, and have the public an opportunity to weigh in, is to go with R5, M1 and M2 for the large scale ground mounted, knowing full well that there's a mechanisms that they can get in the other, like R3 and M2.
So tier 3, those are gonna be the big ones that could potentially be an actual power generating plant, essentially, yes. Right, I just want to, okay. Right, okay. So R5, M1, M2. I mean, that's what's on here. I'm fine with that.
And more John is, he wanted R3 in there.
I would like to see R3 in there, and once again, this is an etched in stone, but I'd like to get it in there because I think it's fair. I think it'd be good.
So like an R3, like you said, so then if someone has a project, it's still gotta meet all the other requirements in order to be able to fit. So as the people is saying no, I'd like to listen to the other board's thoughts on that. I mean, at some point, we do have to represent every size lot, but at the same time, not everything can fit in every zone. So interested here, because I know we just heard we had some, I don't even know where on the map it is, that, actually, I don't even know any proposal being made right now, but regardless, that's, yes, beside the point. Interested to hear what the rest of the board thinks.
Well, I hear, understand, and respect John's position. I am just still struggling with a large number of smaller residential properties. So in that particular case, I'd rather see the ones that come in front of us, and that R3 comes through some of them. That's
John?
I would concur.
So you mean like through zoning and planning?
PUD,
PUD, gotcha.
or through some, whatever method there is to get a, variance.
Well,
All right, so we have.
let me just let you know, it would have to be a PUD if they do it, because they would have to try and get a use variance, which
Right.
is pretty difficult to get.
You have to match all five.
Meet all our criteria, show the financial hardship, that you can't use the property for anything other than what you're proposing.
I guess I'm missing something here, is why would we do that differently than we reduce AR5 or one of the other ones, that's 1 and 2? Why, what specific reason to treat that zone differently than the other zones? That's what I don't get. I don't get why we would treat them all the same.
I'm actually flexible on it still in my head. I'd love to hear what kind of feedback we get from these residential people, the residents and taxpayers, when we go to the public, because, it's, again, in those zones, we've got a lot of smaller residential neighborhoods.
Right.
And these, we're talking about solar fields that are measured in megawatts, 30, 40 acres, 20, 30, 40.
All right, so we have a consensus for now on that.
Yep, it
All
looks
right.
like there's about, yeah, we have a consensus to go out to the public on that, so it's R5, M1, M2,
Right, so
as it is.
as we wrap up, what would you like us to visit next, Counselor? Or would you just want comments from the board to be prepared to discuss what we have left?
Do you mean next tonight or?
No, next time we do a workshop.
Take another one.
What's their homework assignment?
Look at 149.97 and 149.98. To see if you are okay with the way you have the criteria that the planning board would have to provide. And then one other thing that I did attach that we should talk about, and we don't have to talk about it now, but I'd like you to take a look at the pilot law that I put in there. So right now, the town of Carlisle is opted out of providing an exemption. Yes, double negative, but you have to opt out of providing an exemption for taxes for solar farms. And the town has done that. That means that they're taxed. However, one of the things you can do is exempt the properties, and if you exempt the properties, then they have to enter into a pilot program with you, and then you determine how much they pay. Many towns are finding that that is better for them, for a variety of reasons, which I can get into another time. Leah and I spoke about this last week, and it's something that she thinks would be a good idea. And since she's the assessor, I would trust her. Just something I think we should think about, and it would be, because it would be part of the solar law. So I just wanted to throw that out there, so if we have time next time, I'd like to talk
All
about
right,
that.
so those two sections as well as taxation of the structure.
And then if we get through that, we're good to go.
All right, does that work for everybody?
Yeah, so if I just want to be clear, because if we get to that, we really didn't need anything else, right? I mean, when you say we're good to go, we're ready to get something out to the public.
Out to the planning
Up to
board.
the other boards, and then
Yes.
their feedback, then out to the public.
Yes, and, obviously look through, because what I did, what you all have in front of you, it may look very colorful from September, and I'll give you an updated one. But you'll notice there are comments saying, these 3 board members said they wanted this, these 2 board members said they wanted this. Please tell me what to put in. So, I mean, any outlines like that, we definitely will, but there really aren't any except in these 2 sections.
Sounds good. All right, thanks, everyone. Appreciate your help. And we're a little bit closer here.
You want to schedule the next meeting now, or do you want to?
We can, or we can do it next board meeting. It's up to the board. I haven't looked at any projected possible dates. I need to schedule it and have to not be able to attend.
That's fine.
It's a board. Let's see. So we're in November.
We'll be meeting back on the 5th for public hearing, budget.
So we have public, yeah, 5:30. Is that next, that's next week.
How long will that be?
I'm not sure, probably, could be anywhere from 30 minutes to an hour. Or less.
I mean, for here.
Do you want to do it, do you want to schedule it, let's see, that's at 5:30, want to do it at 6:30?
That's true.
I'm really kind of done sooner than later, I'm gonna be doing it remote.
All right, so we'll have 2 board members remote, and 3 of us will be here.
To the best of my knowledge.
All right, so 6:30 on November 5th. We'll have a continuation of our workshop.
Yes.
We wrap this up, we're done. I have a virtual one, has 10 minutes, that I think I can get home to and actually do it, as opposed to do it.
See, I'm working with it.
All right, thanks.
What's that?
Let me give you that.
Oh, yeah.
My phone's on my desk.
Okay, so everybody has a copy?
Well, you have to adjourn the
They
meeting.
just took it off.
Okay.
I don't know, grab it, I'll break it.
You have to adjourn the meeting.
All right, so, motion to
Second.
all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? We're adjourned.
What sections are we supposed to?
One